There you have it.
Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar. This file is from justice.gov. It's an actual file in the Epstein files drop that had occurred. And to show you guys how sloppy of a government job we're dealing with, a shitty government cover-up, this is a redacted section, lines 203 all the way to 206. Now how do you unredact certain lines? What if I told you this stuff was so improperly redacted that a boy like me can just highlight all of this text, right-click, hit copy, open up a text editor on my computer, and right here, paste it for anybody to read? Remember lines 203 that are all blacked out right here? Well, it turns out line 203 said, defendants also attempted to conceal their criminal trafficking and abuse conduct by paying large sums of money to participant witnesses, including by paying for their attorney fees and case costs in litigation related to this conduct. Now, I might have to ask the government, what part of national security is this the reason for the redaction? Now, of course, I started this video off without a hello, guys and gals, because I think that it was important that I capture you guys in the first second of this video to show you how shitty of a redaction job that was happening. You might be like, whoa, Muta, how the hell is this possible? Could you do this with any file? The reality is, if you get lucky, this is the showcase of how poorly the US government is actually doing this cover-up. These are not redacted files. They're redacted visually. But thankfully, because text is not just a black box on a document, you can just highlight, copy, paste it into a text document. Hell, you can even throw it into some artificial intelligence and have it read sections for you. It's crazy stuff we're dealing with. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is probably one of the worst cover-ups that I've seen. Now, in the last couple days, I talked about files disappearing from the Epstein files, right? Like, yesterday there was like this image that we saw, which was actually removed for, very briefly, and then it was brought back once people started to give backlash to the government. Like, why would you remove these images? And the reality of it is that they were actually never really removed. They were actually mostly de-indexed. But to give you guys an idea, to understand, they were actually never really even blocked. For instance, when it came to certain files, all it really took anybody to do was to just open up the actual URL entry for their browser, go in, to this section where it's EFTA, and of course, as long as it's part of the similar data set, like this is in dataset 8, it could be in 7, 6, 5, yada yada, change these numbers around and you can access material that the government has de-indexed from the search engine on the website. So yeah, this does not involve crazy hacker...
Surely this is not intended to distract you from the actual Epstein files not being released.
Done by one of the most incompetent fucking administrations that I've ever actually seen in my lifetime. Man, if Watergate happened today, I would love to see the technical fuck-ups happen right before our very eyes. But anyways, this is not the focal point of the story. There's actually been a lot of drops regarding Jeffrey Epstein. When you go to any of these data sets under Justice.gov, Epstein Library, DOJ disclosures, you can actually download all of these data sets as they come out. So you can download the zip file. Now, you should typically do this as soon as these files drop, because one thing you can do with the zip folder is you can actually run a command known as zip-info. Now, underneath this command, you can actually see exactly a manifest of every single file. Basically, instead of opening up and decompressing the entire thing, you can just see what sits inside. So if the government starts removing files, you can cross-reference with yourself and see which files were removed and which files are allowed to stay up. And of course, ultimately, at the end of the day, with a lot of the redactions poorly made, one could grab these files and remove the redactions themselves, provided, the government was sloppy, and be able to view things that could reveal, individuals. Now, ultimately, I do have to say that because of the victims in this situation, unfortunately, they're also thrown into the crosshairs too, because a poor redaction job does unfortunately go both ways. Now, there's a great website called jmail.world, and I believe this was made by Dropsite News, and I think Coffee also actually worked on it too. But if you look inside this, you can see that there's various volumes of documents that one can flip through. And they've kind of got a Google Drive / Gmail style to it, because ultimately you are just looking at Jeffrey Epstein's vacation Gmail account. So here you can actually search for a document text. You can actually open up all of these files, which they have 36,000 files on. It's crazy when you think about it. The average person is storing the information and archiving it better than the fucking government, who is ordered by law to legally be transparent. But we all know that transparency isn't really a thing regarding the story, okay? But ultimately, anybody can open these documents up, and you can just sort of look around and see new things that have sort of dropped in. Now, inside a lot of these things, inside a lot of these files, for instance, this video clip right over here from the inside of a detention center, you can actually see that there's a description provided. So here is a video showing 2 corrections officers in prison corridor. One officer stops at cell door U9S, J tier 114 on the left, manipulating the locks, leaning against the walls. You get it. So obviously there are descriptions, there are mentions, and yada 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 relating to all of this. So while there's a lot of new mentions of President Trump and some of this stuff, you can see that obviously the DOJ has also stressed to the people that the documents, some documents are unverified, there are anomalies in envelopes, yada yada yada.
Anomalies? Alright.